You've been listening to the visionary sounds of Jonathan Barber and his Vision Ahead band on this heavy rhythm episode of B-Side. I'm your host, Mike Flo, and I hope you're ready for some serious sensory overload. As Ms. Lauryn Hill would say, ready or not, here we come. So, out of extreme tragedy often comes beauty. You suffered a tragedy 2016 with the unexpected loss of your brother. And you wrote in the liner notes that Vision Ahead was used to project and overcome and transform your grief. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So in November 2016, I lost my one and only brother.
Yeah.
And through that difficulty, I began to reflect a lot, and I began to kind of take on this new norm of, you know, not having my brother around because we were like best friends. And at that time, I was kind of in this phase of like, what's next for my career? You know, I traveled and I recorded a lot, but I just wanted kind of something that's going to push me to the next phase of my life. And as I began to reflect and, you know, think about difficulty, I also began to think about like really moving forward and carrying on. And through that experience, like I realized that I could never necessarily move on from it, but I can always carry on from it. From the teachings that I have with my family and the teachings I have with my brother and what I've accumulated over the years and what I have now. And the words Vision Ahead just came to me. And I was like, man, that's going to be the name of my band, that's going to be the name of my record. And that's really the mindset that I have, is just keeping the vision in front of me and always reaching towards that. Because, you know, things like this is going to happen, and it's really natural, and it's a way of life. But while I'm still here and while we are still here, I think it's important that we must be true to ourselves and always be in a position where we're reaching towards our goal.
True. That's an awesome paradigm, you know what I mean, to take in the midst of grief, you know, especially unexpected. So salute to you for that.
Thank you.
You spent 6 years cultivating this tailored sound, right? With like-minded musicians. Did the album exceed your expectations?
I mean, it totally did. Like, at first, like, I really didn't know what to think. You know, I'm just kind of like, I'll say in the beginning of January of 2017, I was like, okay, I got the name, Vision Ahead, it's time to record, and I don't know where to go from here, you know what I mean? And I just picked up the phone and I called a good engineer, and I was like, man, I want to book a studio session in August. And I didn't really have none of the music ready, but I just kind of put myself out there. I just made kind of small strides towards the completion of it. But man, I'm so happy, and I consider myself blessed to kind of have this finished product. And it's just also a blessing to have these guys, you know, with me that also support my vision and also add their, you know, fingerprint and add their color to it as well. Because I think, you know, there's no I in team, and there's strength in numbers. So I feel pretty strong with these guys.
Right on, as you should. You guys sound great, man.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
This album has been called thoughtful and expansive, and just memorable compositions. Do you consider yourself a modernist when it comes to your music, or do you pay homage to the classics as well?
I think it's a combination of the two.
Right.
I think that's kind of what Vision Ahead represents. It kind of, you know, carrying on with what people have done before us. And it's kind of like passing the baton. You know, we are all part of the cycle of life. And, you know, from people from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, 90s, you know, and I feel like we are in the forefront within our generation, within the quote-unquote millennials. So I think we recognize, and I realize that I stand on the shoulders of, you know, Art Blakey and Elvin Jones and Tony Williams and Max Roach, you know, but I also have something to say too. So I feel that as time will tell, other younger people will kind of maybe take some bits and pieces of what I did, and they can go forth and what they have to say.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go to the next song.
Sure.
Gone Away.
Yeah.
12 tracks were personally composed by you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your process, man, when you're making this music.
So I wrote most of the music after the loss of my brother. 2 songs were already in the bag, but as I began to write, I kind of really thought about these guys. And I'm kind of, as a composer, I'm really into like section writing.
Right.
And what I mean by that is kind of give everyone a section to really express themselves. So if we're talking about a typical, jazz song in a typical jazz context, you have the melody, solos, melody. Like that's pretty much it. But I kind of want to create a story and kind of like create like a movie of different scenes of these guys like really improvising and kind of shaping the music, kind of create like a rise and fall kind of thing. So when I compose, and most of the time I compose on this instrument right here, the Fender Rhodes, or the piano, the classic, I kind of really have those shapes in mind, you know, so I'm always thinking of the groove, I'm thinking of, okay, how can this section go to this section, and then what's the climax, and what's the release, and, you know, so it's very, I consider my music very emotional, and also it's very improvisational, as you can hear. And, you know, it definitely has a vision.
You know, and I agree, because I hear the structure, but yet I also feel the freedom in the music.
Oh, totally.
And I appreciate that.
Who
are some of your, who are some of your influences?
So, it's many of them.
I know that's
I'll
a big
say,
question,
yeah.
right?
But of course, you know, the Genesis, my dad, you know, without, he played the drums, and that was like the first person I saw on the drums, and he was definitely influential in my upbringing just by setting up the drums in the living room. You know, we would have a TV, couch, and a drum set, and I just played around, played video games, and I played drums. So I kind of had to owe him that. And then as I got older and got into music, I was, you know, starting the church, so I was listening to Fred Hammond, the Clark Sisters, John P. Key, Commission. And then, you know, on the jazz side, definitely Jackie McLean, who is a huge inspiration and influential to me, coming from Hartford, Connecticut, as he started two amazing institutions, one called the Artists Collective, and he started a jazz studies program in the University of Hartford. And then, you know, being a student in college, you know, I'm checking out Miles Davis, I'm checking out John Coltrane,
right.
You know, Art Blakey, and even, you know, modern people like, you know, Eric McPherson and Abraham Burton and, you know, Myron Walden. I mean, it's just so much music, I guess. But I try to just kind of just hear it all.
Now, I hear you are inspired by a particular scripture, Philippians 4:8.
Yeah.
Expound on that for me.
So Philippians 4:8, it says, like, what sort of things are lovely, pure, good report? And at the end it says, think on these things. And I think a lot of times, you know, due to social media, we kind of take on so much mentally, you know, by reading stuff, and you see people post stuff, and a lot of times it's not always a positive, you know, things. You know, if it's someone venting and telling all their business, or people making a meme, or, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, if you really think about it, like, it's not so much positivity that we consume with our thoughts and on a mental level. And as I begin to think about that scripture, I think it's really important, as we are all people that's trying to, you know, reach our goals and things like that, to kind of consume positivity and meditate on positive thoughts. And so I kind of wrote a song based on that, and I think it's, you know, it kind of really shares that you become what you think.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That word, sound, power,
yeah,
all of that, man. That's
it.
awesome. Tell me this. So I know you have a lot of influences, younger, older, classic, new. Do you listen to any hip hop?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, due to my brother, actually, I definitely was kind of in his CD player, you know, because I'm, you know, I grew up with CDs and even cassettes.
Yeah.
But I definitely must share this. Me living in Harlem now, I remember it was one time me and my brother was playing video games, and he let me hear Big L. And so I'm like, man, who is this guy? And just the delivery of his voice, how he just could not even just commanded his words, but just the emotion that he, I guess, spit, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a musical context, like, you know, we always talk about, you know, your sound, if it's a horn player, if it's a drummer. But as a lyricist, he definitely had a sound, and I know it was a kind of gone too soon moment.
Right.
And I just remember always taking the 2 train, getting off at 135th and walking up, not to kind of put my business out there where I live, but
we out here.
You know what I'm saying? So kind of walking up, and I'll see that mural,
Yeah.
of Big L,
Yeah.
you know? And it was just kind of like, again, I owe that to my brother. And, but I was definitely checking out Jay-Z, you know, at the time, you know, Bad Boy was popping, so I was always listening to Mace and, you know, just those kind of like lively party songs, you know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
but now, I mean, I love what Kendrick is doing, I love what J. Cole is doing. I think those two are people that I always have a high respect for, and it's, you know, definitely, you know, powerful what they're doing in the messages, and I think they're kind of making their heroes proud, you know.
I agree. Hit me with another one, man. Let's go.
All right. Airport.
Listen, man. Drummers have to be master multitaskers.
Totally.
As
Absolutely.
someone who does a lot myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here and I'm amazed. I mean, you got kicks, snares, toms, cymbals, like
Mm-hmm.
timing with the band. Like, how do you manage that outside of playing, like in your normal, like quote unquote normal life, whether it be in your everyday goings or just in the studio composing? How do you multitask like that the way you do here?
I guess, you have to pace yourself.
Yeah.
And I definitely, being a musician that tours and travels and, kind of gets work for the band, I'll say, it's definitely a time management thing. And I think you have to pick your moments where you just do certain things. And I think that it kind of speaks the same way musically. I try to pick my moments where I can, turn up or turn down, if
Right.
you will. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all a balance. It's all a balance.
Yeah, I'm just amazed by it, man. So I mean,
I appreciate
salute
it.
to
Thank
you
you.
all. May
Thank you.
sound awesome. Now, speaking of traveling, I travel a lot as a DJ, and I know I have kind of my routines before we go on and stuff. Actually, before we go on, I'm always listening to some straight ahead classic jazz just to calm my mind a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have a routine on the road, or just prior to shows and stuff?
Not necessarily. I'll say one thing I always like to do is just kind of hang out with these guys.
Yeah.
Before we play, I want us all come together and just be on one accord, have the same mindset that we came to serve, but we also came to kind of play at a high level.
Right.
So, just a while ago, we was in the green room laughing, talking, and I think that's kind of like a thing that I like to kind of have. It's just kind of like, let's all dial in.
Yeah.
Let's all kind of just get together and let's get ready to, make history.
And keep it light. And
Yeah.
Give me the best and the worst parts of the road.
Woo, okay. So, all right, the worst part of the road is the lack of sleep or the early lobby calls. That's never fun. Never fun. Like 5 a.m., 4 a.m. lobby calls, that's just kind of like, it can be cool, but like it's not, you always want to sleep in,
It ain't cool.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to be like cool about it, but nah. But then like the good things is just playing in front of people.
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of like, to say I'm in France at one time, I'm in Germany, I'm in Korea or Japan, and you just see people coming to hear you and to hear music and kind of you share this experience. I think that's just like one of the most beautiful things. So I'll say perform for the people and
And just connecting.
Connecting, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Any favorite places of yours?
Wow. Not in order.
Okay.
I would say Japan,
Check.
Tokyo, especially. As far as like my most memorable concerts have always been in Paris.
Right.
I don't know why. Like every time I play in Paris, it's just kind of like I can't wait to listen back to it. It feels so magical. I'll say Paris is one. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Well, we just came from Russia. We just came from St. Petersburg and Moscow. And I'll say that was definitely one of my favorites because it was my first time being a band leader, bringing Vision Ahead on the road. And I must say we did an amazing job. The first show was in St. Petersburg and it was sold out. And then we had an early lobby call
Right.
and took the train to Moscow. And so I'll say, yeah, I got to throw Russia in there because we definitely made a mark, and that's something I always hold near and dear to me.
Right. I find it important for me to stay abreast of the young lions in the game, and still honoring the classics, but I mean, things change. People get older, they do different things. Meanwhile, you got younger people coming up and getting right to it.
Yeah.
So I find it very special when I see younger jazz musicians today that are really, really kicking. How do you feel about keeping that torch alive, especially as a young musician of color?
Man, it's really important. We're kind of in this, I'll say like this sensitive society realm right now. You know, because when we're talking about the term jazz, we know it in its essence. We know that it is one of the most intellectual, powerful art forms alive.
Absolutely.
You know? And jazz will never die, to set the record straight.
Check.
So, with that being said, it's also, that label also doesn't necessarily give the best uplifting light to us as musicians, and it doesn't really serve us justice in the grand scheme of things. Like, you know, there's saying that I'm a rock star, there's nothing wrong with that. Saying I'm a pop star or a rap or hip hop. But when you say jazz, a lot of times it can kind of taint the true art that you're trying to present. So that is kind of a struggle within itself. You know, being you know, African American playing this music. I mean, this is our music first off, and I'm proud and privileged to kind of have the torch passed, and also, you know, express it with people within my race and people outside my race, because, you know, it's definitely a, you know,
it brings it all together.
Yeah, it brings it all together.
Right.
But as far as just kind of like the label, I think that's kind of a mission of mine, that I'm just trying to kind of break that barrier, kind of like, you know, clear the smoke, you know, if you will, that being in this jazz industry, that we are still performing at a high level, that we are still relevant and prominent, just like any other artist that maybe has a label that's not jazz or outside of that. I think, you know, I'm confident to say with this band, we kind of, I think we can break the mold of just the box of just artists and music in general, and musicians, by what we present, and I think it kind of shows forth in our music. So I'm always trying to reach forth or reach farther within this industry, and say it's more than just the label itself. I think it's a continuation of the elements of jazz music.
And that's the torch, the
That's
continuation.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. JB.
All right.
Let's go. that song's about?
So Mr. JB was a song composed by one of my best friends, Javon Alexander, and he wrote that like a while ago, like while we were in school. I guess he wanted to like write a song in dedication to me, and so I feel if someone writes you a song, you got to play it, and he never recorded it, so I kind of resurrected the song and brought it to the band and added a few, I guess, solo parts, and we recorded, and it's a hit. It's a hit.
Speaking of hits, what's the first song you wrote by yourself?
First song I wrote by myself was "Think on These Things,"
Okay.
which we talked about the scripture, and it was just I was at the piano just kind of playing, and I kind of played one triad after another triad, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool, and it kind of just develops, and I thought it was cool, and I kind of we've been playing it for a while, and I'll say on the record I have two amazing vocalists that is on that sing on that song. Shout outs to Denise Renee and Sasha Foster, and I also wrote the lyrics to it. So if you haven't checked out Think on These Things, I urge that you do so and hear the words.
Before we go into the last song, let's introduce the band.
Absolutely. On the Fender Rhodes, Tabor Gable. On the bass, Matt DeWanzik. On the alto saxophone, Godwin Louie. And on the guitar, Andrew Renfro.
Real quick, I'm super putting you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right. Here's the scene. You're on tour. You're in a Sprinter van for a month. You got 3 albums you can take with you. Give them to me.
Woo.
3.
Okay. Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Check.
I have to say, Jill Scott, Live Experience, 826, live in DC. Woo. All right, third one. This is gonna be.
You went in with that one. Though,
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Miles Davis. Miles Davis ESP.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Give me those 3, and we can
So
we can
those
vibe.
3, you riding out?
We riding out. Yeah.
I take that. All right, these will be fast. If you did a TED Talk, what would it be? If you did a TED Talk.
I'll be on Vision Ahead.
If I weren't a musician, I'd be
An actor.
Favorite song?
Don't stop till you get enough.
Woo. You know, that's a motto.
Right.
That's really an
right.
affirmation.
You're right.
Okay?
Yeah.
What's your favorite song about New York?
Favorite song about New York? Oh man.
I'll give you a minute with that one.
Let's see. I had it in my head just now. Let me think of the artist. I mean, okay, you got the Alicia Keys and Jay-Z one, but I wasn't thinking of that one though.
Sinatra. Any Brooklyn songs? Biggie.
Yeah, I'll say yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Brooklyn at. Yeah. Yeah, Biggie.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm about to go with yeah.
So, do you have any? Of course you do. So let me not ask. Do you? Who are your non-musical influences?
Non-musical influences. I mean, speaking of actors, I mean Denzel.
Yeah.
You know, he's definitely. I love his work and how he can just own a character. You know.
Yeah.
But man, I like Steve Robbins, motivational speaker. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, art is cool. I mean, Picasso. But I guess, yeah, he's not. That's the art, but he's not a musician. But
Yeah.
My grandfather, I'm like,
There you go.
he's like a huge, influential, guy in my life, and my mom.
Right.
My dad too. I might as well say the whole
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll say those guys.
Awesome. Well, that was a cosmic journey we just took with Jonathan Barber and his badass Vision Ahead band. As we stretch out on this reflective episode of B-Side, and I can't wait to hear more of Jonathan's progressive sound. Now, to hear even more forward and progressive music from B-Side, check out our past episodes on our YouTube channel and B-Side Podcast on our SoundCloud. Or you can just get it right here at BRIC. Check the website for listings. I'm your host, mikeflo, and I'm digging and always finding nothing but jewels right here on the B-Side. Peace.